All right, this is Connor Robles from the press here with Larenza Baldazo, the author of We Are Twins, a new children's book. Okay, that was just released on the 20th, was it? All
That's
right.
right.
So, first of all, well, I'd like to ask about, I guess your experiences that inspired the book. You mentioned that it's inspired by your daughter and her disability and special needs that she was diagnosed with. And you said that you had to become her main advocate and acquire information. So, what exactly happened? Why did you have to do that?
Well, let me think for a moment because I do want to answer that clearly.
Yeah.
So, when my daughter was about, oh gosh, maybe 6 months old or so, she wasn't meeting her milestones.
Mm-hmm.
And I had let her doctor know, and I was kind of brushed off with
Mm-hmm.
the doctor mentioned, oh, you have new mom anxiety. And then she wasn't talking when she wasn't supposed to, walking. Like there was just all these little things. And I knew something needed to be addressed. And I was advised to get her hearing checked as a start, just because typically I've learned when speech is delayed or off, it could be a hearing thing. And that ended up being the case. She was 100% deaf in one ear, and she was just going to be starting school. And I felt like she wasn't at the same level that her peers were, her age. And kind of skipping ahead to like now we are in school, knowing what we know. And I wanted particular services like speech class, um, and certain therapies for her in school. And I was told, you know, oh no, she doesn't need that. Liana is at the pace she needs to be at. And even though our class is big, our teachers are great, they'll work with her. And while the teachers were great and they did work with her, she still needed a lot of help. So I had to kind of go up at district level and have all of these meetings. And I definitely was the squeaky wheel, and I got what she needed, which was speech therapy, occupational therapy. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. There is one more because as soon as we got the ball rolling with that, a couple of months went by and COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And Zoom school. Oh, and I also ended up holding her back. I ended up putting her back a grade to TK when kindergarten just wasn't working out. And I was advised by the school to not do that. And I knew she needed it because when she went into TK, that was definitely like her group. She made friends and they were doing art at the same level. Then COVID hit, and sitting in front of a computer and doing Zoom school was not effective. No, and no one could have planned that. So I'm not blaming, the teachers or anybody like that. But she was miserable, and I can only imagine like the average TK or kindergartner or first grader, the boredom they had, or the trouble they had sitting still and with that type of school. But to have a learning disability and hearing trouble, to that made Zoom school like it was traumatic, if I could just be transparent, for both of us. Mm-hmm. So we were doing Zoom speech therapy and Zoom occupational therapy and Zoom physical therapy. So I became those teachers and I did my absolute best. And so when I say I became her advocate, I really had to be her voice. And I mean, that's what parents do. I definitely don't think I did anything that anyone else wouldn't do for their own kid. but not everyone is put in that situation, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then 10 months of Zoom school, we opted to homeschool her, and she's been thriving in homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets the one-on-one support in that way.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? I know that was super long. Pull from that what you want.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. And kind of building on that, We Are Twins is about a couple of friends. Is that based on some experience of your daughters with like her own friends, or is it like something that you just came up with?
Yeah, actually, yeah, to everything you just said. So, We Are Twins is actually a phrase. So, my daughter, her nickname is Lily, Lili, and We Are Twins is a phrase she used to actually say, and she's kind of grown out of it, but if you were both wearing a blue shirt, or you were both, I don't know, drawing the same thing, she would, make that connection, and she would say, "We are twins, we're both having pizza," or "We are twins, you're wearing pink socks too." And after that, like, roller coaster of getting this diagnosis, being told, "No, it's all in your head, everything's fine, she's a late bloomer," I had focused on like all of these differences. So take a moment. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I focused on a lot of differences when she was just your average kid too, And I think I had saw a problem I needed to fix. And sorry, I didn't know I would get like that. So as she came on the other side of that development progress, she was talking, there was a time where the doctor said, when she wouldn't walk, "Oh, she may not be able to walk." So now she runs, she sings, and even though maybe she didn't meet her milestones at the pace that we know, she still met them. And when she came out on the other side, I started to see, like, she's still a little kid that loves Disney, that loves Halloween, doesn't really eat her vegetables. So she actually taught me, and I have it in the end of my book here. Let me see, I'll show you. It says, We Are Twins was inspired by Liana not only because of her journey, but because this was something she would often say when she felt a connection with someone or shared the same interest. Once again, Lorena's daughter had introduced her to a new way of thinking, that it is our differences that make us special, and our similarities are what spark long-lasting friendships. Sorry. My first interview about the book, so I got a little emotional there.
It's okay.
But, yeah, so we're on the other side.
Okay. And what was your kind of journey to publishing the book like?
Oh, so this is kind of funny. I had written this book. I emailed it to myself, this little story, I should say. As I mentioned, like, there was a lot of like uncertainty and frustration, like, throughout this, getting her the services she needed. Even just to get a referral to get her hearing checked was like pulling teeth. So I had gone through all this. COVID was, horrible for young students. Actually, I think for students in general. And we're on the other side. She's in gymnastics. She is playing, more with her cousins. When you mentioned earlier about the story, Luli, this is, the character is based off of her, and Valentina is the other character. And I truly feel that Valentina, you know, represents Lily now, my daughter. Like all of her cousins that she plays with, like while Lily, sure, she's different, all the kids are different from one another. And they all share similarities. So for me, you know, jotting that little note down or this story in my email, the other character represents, you know, my daughter's cousins and her regular playmates. So I had emailed myself that story, and I tweaked it here and there. This second character didn't have a name for a while, and I kind of just added to it. And it is a simple story with a big message. That was over 3 years ago. I looked into the publishing process, and I was overwhelmed. It seemed unattainable. And I stopped. Then I had reached out to other publishers, and I either didn't get a response, or I would get, we don't take submitted manuscripts. And I was like, well, how do they get books? So anyway, some time went by again, and I had joined a Facebook group for children's authors and illustrators. And in that Facebook group, there was a lot of talk about self-publishing and the process. And there were a lot of people who didn't have a writing background, which I do, that they were doing it, and they were really just kind of winging it. And I thought, hey, like, if these people can do it, they just started and put the action behind it, I could do it too. And that's what I did. I reached out in that group for an illustrator. I really wanted something very vibrant. I wanted it almost Disney-like. Like, obviously there is no other Disney, and the cool thing about these artists is they have their own creativity. And I received actually, oh my gosh, I don't know, maybe like 20 responses or more of like links to work and, you know, drawing examples. And then I kind of was like met with all of this hesitation, because then I realized, like, okay, it is probably easy to get scammed, like just looking for an illustrator online. So I found one that I really liked. It was very colorful, and did my homework on her. She had work on Amazon already, and she had her own, you know, site with just good, I would say, just overall good experience. Like, I was just able to vet her work, and I reached out to her. We worked together starting August, ending in December of last year. And then I sourced a printer, and they sent me a sample, and then if I had any changes, you make the changes, and then you know, submit your order from there. And I reached out to the Railroad Book Depot, and Irene was very optimistic and open about carrying the book.
Who is Irene?
Irene is, Edgar, is she technically the store manager or what?
Yes.
Okay. Irene, her last name, how do I pronounce it?
Let me get my thing. I can't pronounce. She goes by Kerr, K-U-R, but it's Kerr or something. You want me to go get it? It's like.
Do you want him to get it?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
And Edgar, I've been working with him too. Maybe he can tell you his last name and spell it and everything.
Right.
So the bookstore, they've been very helpful in just releasing this launch. The book actually will be available on Amazon very soon. But the reason why I'm not in a huge rush, like, yes, I know Amazon has a lot of visibility and trust, but the Railroad Depot, they contribute 30% of each sale to the Pittsburg, is it Arts and
Pittsburgh Arts and Community Foundation.
Pittsburgh Arts and Community Foundation.
I'll let you
Oh,
All right.
okay, so Irene, I-R-E-N-E. Last name is that an I as well? I think it's an I.
Starts with the I.
I-K-U-R-E-N-E. Rniawan.
And she goes by Iker.
Iker. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And do you need his last name?
Sure. And so you worked with Irene and with Edgar to sell the other book. So what? And how many copies have you sold so far?
You know what? I'm not entirely sure. I will have to get some kind of update from Irene.
Edgar's estimation is at least 75.
Okay.
75.
I've been pretty good in my, right?
That's good. Yeah. So we can estimate 75.
Because you brought 20.
I did bring another.
Those sold out.
Yeah.
Then you brought some more when I wasn't here. I think that pretty much sold out. And then you had another batch. I don't know what was at the time.
Yeah. So,
So I
one
would
thing.
say 75.
75. And one thing Irene.
75 plus.
75 plus.
And she doesn't have her book signing yet.
And yeah, we haven't had an actual book signing, so I am going to do a launch party. Don't hate me, Edgar, because it's not here. I need a bigger space, but I am going to do a launch party May 4th at Dale Vino, which is here in Pittsburgh. What? But I am also...
Man, you want them to get drunk so they'll buy your book?
Don't say that. Maybe. But I am also going to do a book event here. I have a side note. I have a senior at Pittsburgh High School, and I'm very busy planning his graduation party, which is in June. So I am stretched a little thin with the book launch and the grad party, but I am gonna make it happen, and we will do a book event here at this store. Maybe just stay in touch with me if you choose, to share that, but I'm thinking end of June. If their calendar is still open. So far it is right now.
All right. That's pretty much all I had to ask. Then thank you so much for the interview,
Okay.
Lorena.
Thank you for reaching out. I was so grateful that you had responded to the press release. So in my day job, I am a web producer for Contra Costa County's Employment and Human Services Department. So think social services, like where people apply to get like food stamps, Medi-Cal. And so writing is a big part of just everyday life. And this, I was kind of just able to throw in some creativity because the typical writing I do is very heavy or just news oriented. And I got to throw in some rainbows and butterflies on this one, so I'm happy about that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Sorry I cried. Did that ruin the interview?
No.
That made it.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna ruin my makeup.